everyone. This is Brian Schwartz back with another session preview. I'm happy to introduce or reintroduce to you Jim Seybert. He is a legend on the Central Coast. He's produced over 100 audiobooks. He's also the announcer for Slow Blues Baseball and does a lot of voiceover work. So I'm excited to have him back this year at the conference. And I asked him to share a little bit about specifically what he's going to be talking about. He's actually doing a session that he's co-leading with Margie Valine. But I liked Jim's suggestions on something that writers will specifically benefit from hearing from a narrator. So, Jim, why don't you take it away?
Okay. Happy to. This is great. I'm excited to be part of the conference again this year. I come from a kind of a unique perspective. The very first book I narrated in 2010 was a book I had written. So I wrote the book. It was published by Tyndale House. Tyndale sold the rights to a company called Oasis that does audiobook production, and they wanted an author read. So they sent me an email and said, would you be willing to read this book? I'd never thought about narrating an audiobook before. So they hired a studio here on the coast, and I went, a professional studio. I went and sat down and recorded the thing. And one of the one of the things that kept rolling through my mind as I was reading my own work was basically, who wrote this? You know, there were things I had written that worked really well on the page, but didn't work really well in audio. There were just like words that looked really great when I wrote them out, but they maybe a little too much alliteration or too much sibilance or those types of things. And so one of the things that I'm excited to share with authors at the conference is how to write and make it audio friendly. And there are just some things that you can do with speaker tags and with descriptions and some other things. And then there's some mechanical things you can do to help narrators, like provide them with a character map, you know, and that type of thing, so that there's not a surprise. Any competent narrator is going to read the entire book before they narrate it anyway, but it's nice to know ahead of time that the sheriff has a Scottish accent. And it's nice to know that before you get to the last chapter, you know, those types of things. So I've got some tips for people, for writers. I've been where you are. I've written and narrated my own books, and so I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent. And I will say that as the format of books continues to evolve, audiobooks is one of the bright spots. It continues to grow year to year. And I think with writers knowing that there's going to be a growing audience of listeners that will be listening to their book, especially as Americans age and reading becomes a bigger chore, right? For the older Americans, let's be honest, they're preferring audiobooks. So why not write with the audiobook in mind from the start?
Yeah, exactly. I don't think you have to specifically say, I'm only going to write this for audio, although there are some books now that are going directly to audio. It's just to make it audio friendly. And some tips like that will make it an easier listen and will help the narrator, whoever you choose, do the best job you can. I mean, you've spent all of this time, years of your life, writing the book. You've hired somebody to do the cover. You've hired somebody to do the pagination, the interiors. You know, you've looked at the good distribution. Now let's make sure that final piece that is just as good as it can be.
Well, that's excellent, Jim. I really appreciate it. For those of you who haven't registered yet, it's centralcoastwritersconference.com. It's Saturday, October 5th. And now's the time to jump on this. And there'll be more speakers like Jim, but we're really looking forward to having you. And thanks again for giving our attendees a little heads up, Jim.
You bet.